Hope you can hear me. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Yeah, so last day we started hashing. I told that hashing is an example of situation where human invention has exceeded the mathematical boundary. So in case of hashing, the most essential part is the hashing function, which is nothing but a pseudo-random number generator. Okay, so before hashing, there was this direct address table, which is also a very simplified hash function. But the problem was that it required uh, lots of storage because it was storing the keys in terms of its range. So even if our data is scattered, it will store all the blank spaces. So after that, hash table was introduced. In case of hash table, we have a hash function h, which is a mapping from the inverse of keys to the set of set of slots of the hash table. So if I have n number of slots in my hash table, that n number of slots, each of the slots I'm numbering as 0 to n minus 1. So this is my range. So my function should map the keys to one of the hash key values from 0 to n minus 1. That is the storage location. Okay. This n is actually for the PRNG. This n is going to be the period length. So all numbers within this period has to be equally likely. We also discussed some properties that the function should be dependent on key. No two key values should generate the same hash key. Although this is very difficult to actually implement if we have n as less than n, where n is the number of keys that we are going to store, and hash key value should be uniformly distributed. This is an important property that we enforce when we are critically analyzing the hashing functions. So that enforcing thing is called simple uniform hashing criteria, where we consider H is an uniform PRNG, and so all the numbers, each number 0 to n minus 1 are equally likely. Okay, so in that case, storage requirement, if we take the conditions 2 and 3 to be satisfied, that will be order of n. So that is actually much lesser than the direct access tool, where that storage required, like if I have scattered keys, then also it is going to take the whole range of keys as my storage. Then we discuss the insertion technique. During insertion, we should always try to insert at the beginning of the linked list. If we so obviously this beginning of linked list, this comes when we have an situation of collision, that is two key values are back to the same location. If that happens, in that case, here in this particular uh, collision resolution technique, we do the chaining procedure. That is, for each of the slot we assign a linked list. So for here also it might have one linked list, here also it might have some linked list. So if nothing is there, this linked list will be first, this will be empty. But whenever we are getting some value which is assigned to this slot, we are creating new nodes and the linked list is going to get increased. So if you have two values which are mapped to the same location, then what you will do is you will add that the next value at the beginning of the chain. This will ensure that your insertion time is always constant, irrespective of where, at which time you are going to insert. So in worst case, the chain length can be as bad as size n, where n is the total number of keys. So access time will be all of n. But if we take this h, the hashing function, as a uniform PRMG, then we are expected that our all the numbers inside this range 0 to n minus 1 all will be equally likely. If all of them are equally likely, choosing each of this number as output, that probability will be 1 by n. This is called the uniform hashing criteria. That is, under uniform hashing criteria, choosing or getting output slot as any of these numbers 0 to n minus 1, that probability will be 1 by n. So if you take uniform hashing criteria, then we can practically avoid the worst case situation by ensuring that our all the key values are equally likely to be mapped to one particular location. So in that case, the average chain length we calculate, that chain length is called also the load factor, that is alpha equals to n by n, where n is your number of keys and n is your number of slots. And when you design the hash table, the same and n, these are your design factors. So according to your requirement, you can make it large or make it small. It just depends on you. So ultimately, this value will be a constant value. That's why if we say that the chain length is some particular constant, then if we take say theta or order of 1 plus say alpha, where alpha is a constant, then also this value becomes a constant. Now what we are going to do is calculate the average case complexity of collision resolution by chaining under this simple uniform hashing criteria, or simple uniform hashing assumption, you can say. Assumption. So it is short. In short, we can say it is as SUHA. Okay. So let us start. So there will be two cases. So collision resolution by chaining. We are considering simple uniform hashing assumption. So when you are searching a key and that key is not present in that table, then you have one kind of average access time. So we want to find the average access time. So average access time for the situation when key is not present. So in that case, what we have to do? So this is situation 1. Say this is my key k. First I have to compute the hash key values. So for this k, I have to compute h of k. This will take order of 1 time just for computation, right? So after computing this, what I have to do? I have to directly go to this particular location. Now we have used collision resolution by chaining, right? So at this location, say this is my table and this HK is locating to this particular slot. Now in this slot, I have a chain. Now how can I know that this key is not present? I have to traverse through this chain, and as it is linked list, there is no other option but to traverse each of these nodes individually or sequentially. So what is the length, average length of this chain? So this is first task or task A. Second is traverse through the chain at location HK. So in that case, how many number of nodes in general we have to traverse? If we consider simple uniform hashing, anyone? So under SUHA, total number of keys is n, right? This n number of keys have to be mapped. These keys has to map to locations. Total number of locations n. So what will be my average chain length?
N.
Hmm?
Will it be N?
No. Average I am telling.
Oh, average will be
I have n total n number of keys, where this n is greater than or equals to m.
N by M.
N by M.
N by m, right? So average chain length is n by m. On average, these many number of elements will be in each chain. So if I have to traverse this whole chain to find whether my So if I have to traverse this whole chain to find whether my key is present or not, I have to traverse at least this, on average, this n by m length. So to traverse this, how much time should I need? Order of n by m, right? So total time will be what? Order of 1 plus n by m. Now this n by m is also the load factor alpha. That means total time will be order of 1 plus alpha, where this plus means maximum of this. That is the complexity, right? So if we don't get the key stored in the hash table, then also we need constant time to get the answer that the search key is not present. Now if the other situation happens, that is the key is present in the table, in that case, what will be the situation? Again, we have a table, we have some slot. So computation, first step is computing the hash key, computing h of k, that will take order of 1 time. Now say this is my h of k. Now I have again a chain, right? But as this key is present in the hash table, that means what? This key has collided with some previous keys present there, and each of these keys present in this chain, they had collision, right? So each keys each keys had collision with the keys inserted before it. Now we have to keep track of how many number of collisions were there. So when we had collisions, we had to resolve it through this inserting that element into this linked list. Through this we have solved the collision. So that collision we have to take care for each of the elements inserted inside this chain. So what will be our total say for the ith element present in the chain. Total number of collision that has happened for this is say xij. This denotes, this is an indicator value variable. This denotes the is an indicator variable. So again we are using this indicator variable. This will take the count of the collisions that has happened for this ith element. Okay. So what does it mean? Xij equals to h. This indicates that if hi equals to hj, probability of this, probability of hi equals to hj. That means the element I and the element j had a collision. If they had collision, that means that can only happen if both of them are going to have the same hash key. So that probability value is measured by this xij. Maybe I can take it not as probability or that event. Okay, I'll take this as an event. So this indicator variable that denotes the event that hi equals to hj. So expected value of exij is what? Can you guess? How many number of times it is expected that the two keys are going to get collided? So this is the number of times two keys are expected to map to the same as
N by M.
no, it is not n by m.
We're considering that on an average the keys are placed, right? So each position has N by M keys. So
It is not dependent on n. It depends on simply on h. See, the function is on h. So hi or hj, what will be the values? H of something, this will generate, say hi equals to say a. Hj equals to also a. Now this value of a, this can be what? Inside this set 0 to m minus 1, right?
yes, ma'am.
So what can be this value, expectation value, that h of I and h of j are equal? That is equals to the probability of picking up any of these values as our output.
Yes, ma'am.
This is actually equals to the probability of picking any of 0 to m minus 1 as output of h. So this is actually 1 by m if we consider again simple uniform hashing assumption. Okay, so this is for one particular element that is present in the chain. Now we have to consider the average over all possible elements to get the average access time. So this is ith element. So we pick up. I don't know whether I'm doing something wrong or not. So for ith element, total number of collisions equals to total amount of total number of collisions by step. This will be sum over this xij, where if I number the elements from, say if I have the chain like this, or this is an array, just for the sake of simplicity consider that this is the first element in the chain, this is the second element in the chain, this is the third element in the chain, in this way. Then if this is my ith element, the last element we name it as n minus 1. So this, according to the position in the chain, we are naming the elements. So in that case, for the ith element, the already existing elements are having higher values than the ith element. So it is xij j equals to I plus 1 to n, right? So this will be n minus 1, this will be n. I'm ending with n, starting with 1. So maybe this is 1, this is n minus 1, and say this is I. So if I am taking any one element in the chain, for that element, all the elements after it that is present in the chain, they have already been inserted before it. That's why they are after this in the chain. So for each of them there was collision. If we take all the collisions, sum of it, then we will be getting total number of collisions that has happened for inserting that before inserting that particular ith element. So, and for inserting ith element, what we need? We need to compute the hash key value for the ith element also. So total amount of time for it, for the ith element, this will be 1 plus this j equals to I plus 1 to n xij. Now we have been considering any ith element, right? We have to take the average, considering all possible value of I. We have total n number of keys, so any key we can choose. So that means for any key to choose the I'm not writing it in the proper language. For any key I 1 lesser equals to I lesser equals to n, the average access time will be, if I am taking average, I have to divide it by n. Now I am considering, so okay, what I have to do, I have to take a sum over I equals to 1 to n, right? And inside it, this will be there. So it is 1 plus j equals to I plus 1 to n xij. Now you check if it is seeming logical to you. This is for any I. We have all values of I. So all values of I means we have to take sum over I equals to 1 to n, and inside this will be there. Now for to make it average, we have to divide by n also. So this becomes all possible cases and its average. So now you do it. So expectation say this we consider as x. Now expected value of this x will be, p of x is inside this, so I skip one step and I write directly e here. So it is 1 by n, sum of phi equals to 1 to n, 1 plus j equals to iu plus 1 to n, p of xij. P of xij is what, that we know. So this is 1 by n, I equals to 1 to n, 1. So this is n, right? 1 by n into, this is what, n or not? N plus,
Yes, ma'am.
okay, so 1 by n, I equals to 1 to n, j equals to I plus 1 to n, p of xij equals to 1 by m, right? So here it is 1 plus 1 by n m, I equals to 1 to n, j equals to I plus 1 to n, 1. So what is this inner sum value? Can you tell me? Is it n minus I? Check.
Yes, ma'am, it's n minus y.
So now in n, if we again divide it, then this part is n I equals to 1 to n 1 minus I equals to 1 to n I equals to 1 plus n by m minus, what is this? Sum of naturals, right?
N into n minus 1 by 2.
N
The
into
whole thing.
this I come across. This is n into n minus 1 by 2 n m. So this we can cross out. This is 1 plus alpha minus n minus 1 by n by 2. I want to write it in terms of alpha. What I should do? N minus 1 by 2m, okay. N by m by 2 plus 1 by 2m. So 1 plus alpha by 2 plus alpha by 2m. Alpha by 2n, right? Something like this. So we can write it as order of 1 plus alpha. The point is still, so in both the cases, under SUHJ, the access time will be is order of 1 plus alpha, where alpha is n by n. So while you design the hash table, if you give alpha properly, that is alpha is not too big, then you can clearly say that your access time for any kind of situations is going to be only constant. Okay. So this is about simple uniform hashing assumption. Now see, this simple uniform hashing assumption is very important to make it constant, right? So far what we have done for all the algorithms we have studied is, we have simply thought that we have a black box that is going to generate a kind of random number for our purpose, and that random number is good enough for using it as random, right? We didn't impose any other criteria. But here for hashing, it is very important that the random number that we are generating is proper. All the criteria of being a good random number generator has to be satisfied by the hashing algorithm. Hashing scheme is basically very simple, but all the hashing, all the theory of hashing depends on how good you can create the hashing function such that the keys are equally likely to be generated. There you can avoid the worst case situation, and also your table will be properly distributed. There will not be something like one chain will be large, another chain will be too small, something like that should not happen. So for everything, all you need is, you need to generate good hash functions. So need of the day is good hash function. as I told, hash function is nothing but PRNG. We need simple yet very strong kind of random number generators such that we can get output numbers which will be effective for distributing our keys properly in the table. Oh, before that, last day I also asked you about whether you have seen this, uh, the existing programming language and how they're using this hashing, right? Anyone done that?
Yes, ma'am. Some
Okay.
MD5, SHA1 and all are used, where MD is message direct and SHA means secure hash. So these are the ones used in Java, PHP and all. For Python and C++, I found the functions, but I didn't find like inside what they're using properly. So example in Python, you just have a function called hash and then bracket and then you give a string inside and it'll give a hash for that.
Okay. So in that case, might be they are using some other kind of function. SHA is a very strong cryptographic function, so SHA will be popular. It is a hash function obviously. So that is used. So if you then your next task is you try to look through the code itself, whether it is using some kind of random number generator inside it or how they are implementing it. Okay.
Yes,
So
ma'am, we'll try it.
might be some kind of normally this when you look into hashing function, it will not only have the hash this random number generator along with that the scheme of hashing will also be there. Just like how your table will be constructed, whether it is hierarchical or whether it is a simple table, how it is going to be uh, constructed, that will also be there. Okay, so when we discuss about them, you will understand in a better way. But just try to dig into it so that you can get some information of how practically it is happening.
Yes, ma'am.
So good hash function. Some trivial examples I am going to give. So it is like theoretical example only. Depending on which are the values that you are giving, it might be good enough. Okay. So normally in case of simple kind of hash functions which are easy to compute, normally two type of functions are there. One is this division, while we use mod division method. This method we have already used before. So it is like h of k equals to k mod m. Okay, so simply we are modding k with, we are doing some kind of mod with k and we are generating the hash function. Now instead of simply k mod m, you can also use some like h of k equals to, say, instead of h of g of k equals to, say, uh, k into c plus d mod m. Okay, this is also another hash function which uses division method, but apart all not, it doesn't depend only on k. It takes into consideration this c and d, which are constant values. So this can be constants or it can be it is d and c and d, or it can be some function variables also, or some function. So it is dependent upon how strong you are going to design. Obviously, if you use this will be weaker than this. For some good C and D, there are more variation possible. So this will make this G of K more strong than this H of K. But when you use this mod, we call it part of the division method of generating hash function. Okay. Another thing is available that is called multiplicative. That is just opposite of division. Multiplicative. In this case, what we do is we take a fractional number. Say a is a fractional number which is less than 0 or less than 1. So it is a non-negative fractional number. Non-negative fractional constant. We multiply the key with this a, k into a. So that might be even more than 1. So we take the fractional part of it. Okay. Then we again multiply it with m. Now this I can take it as simply as mod, not required to minus it. So if I am taking k into a, this will be some value. Say k a is 0.7 and my k is say 10. Then it is not required actually, but say k is 11. 10 plus 1, 11. In that case, it will be what? 7.7. So some fractional part is there. To consider that fractional part, what we do is we do mod with 1. So mod with 1 will give you, this part will give you the fractional part. Okay. Now you multiply this with some constant m, where m is the total number of slots, and take the floor value. This will be one integer number. This is an integer number to store the key. This is the multiplicative hash function method. So here we will take h of k equals to m into ka mod 1, the ceiling value. Okay, what else? So, have I ever told you about the how you can generate random numbers? Just a second. Yeah, sorry. Okay, have I ever told you about how you can generate random numbers? I hope yes, right?
Yes, ma'am, in the
Yes,
first
ma'am.
3 classes.
Okay. So instead of this kind of hash function, you can also use your own random number generator, but that has to be strong, right? Like that has to satisfy this like uniform distribution. Then all the numbers from 0 to m, they have to be equally likely. One way of seeing whether it is happening or not is you look at the distribution of the keys. If the keys, how the keys are distributed, depending on that you have to choose your hash function. So this is collision resolution using chaining. Another way of collision resolution is there, that is called open addressing. Open addressing is basically very easy, although it suffers from some kind of problem. So in open addressing, what we do is we search for the next slot in the table. So here none of the key values are stored outside of table. So open addressing means all keys are stored inside the table only. If we make this restriction, what has to be our relation between n and m? N and m. How they will be? They will be related.
Equal.
Sorry.
Must be equal. Must be equal, right?
Equal or
Less than the n can be equal or less than m.
exactly. So previously, in case of this chaining, we considered n can be greater than or equals to m. Here we have to consider that n is at least equal or less than m, less or equals to m, because we are not allowing any key value to be stored outside of our table. That means we need to have more empty slots in our table. So here storage space requirement will be, space complexity will be order of m. Previously our space complexity was order of n, here it is order of n. So in open addressing, what we do is, suppose this is my table and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Say my key is first assigned here. So here I am keeping one key, K1. H of K1 equals to 1. Now say H of K5, this is also equals to 1, where say K2 is stored here, K3 is stored here, K4 is stored here, something like this. Now if K5 is also 1, so first I shall try to store it into this first slot, but first slot is already booked, then we have to probe. So in open addressing there is this probing. Probing means you have to investigate through the hash table to find what is the next empty slot in your table. So here what is my next empty slot? This one. So here I am supposed to store my K5. So although K5 is equals to 1, it is stored here. Okay, so probing means finding the next empty slot, and this sequence, like the slots that you are getting while checking whether that slot is empty or not, that is called the probe sequence. Should I continue or should I stop? It's your choice.
Ma'am, as in, we have a class next.
Like 4 or 5 have class next.
Okay, then I should stop because this will take some time. So, do you have any confusion regarding the things that we discussed today?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Normally, people have some problem with this average time calculation, but if you don't have, then that is good. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
ma'am.
Thank you.